Welcome to Around the Weird. Here's your host, the museum curator of the strange and unusual, Mr. Nothing.
Thank you, mysterious voice, and welcome back to Around the Weird, a booktube channel where I talk about all the unusual and out of the ordinary literature that I have found in my travels. Today, I don't want to talk about a specific book that I read, but rather I want to do the usual wrap-up and TBR. For those who are newer to booktube, TBR is to be read. And so in March, there were some pretty good reads, pretty slow start to the month, I would say, in terms of those reads, because some things I thought were going to be good were actually so-so. But I do feel that it was probably one of the better months for short stories, which I'll talk about in a few moments. And I also sort of fell in love with a new series, The Legend of the Condor Heroes series, which was one book when it was initially written, but when it was translated to English, it was put into 4 different books. So I got to make my way through the series, and I really enjoyed A Hero Born, the first book in that translated series. So very much looking forward to everything else coming from there, which I'll get to in a month or two. I still have a couple books that I need to get through, but should be a blast when I finally make it to A Bond Undone, which is the second book in the series. But without further ado, let's talk about the wrap-up and TBR, and we'll move on from there. So what did I read in March in terms of books? I read the Vampire Academy graphic novel. It was just like volume 1 of the adaptation of the series, and I thought it was meh. The biggest problem being that if I wanted to get into the Vampire Academy series, I should have started with the books, because the graphic novel adaptations always strip out some interesting writing and context that is important. And I think it also presumes that you already read or already read the books, which I did not. I'm probably unlikely to go through the Vampire Academy series because that was probably something that Mr. Nothing from high school would have really enjoyed, but Mr. Nothing as an adult probably doesn't have the time to get involved with that. So I kind of didn't really like it. And then I also read I Am a Cat, which I got from a bookstore in San Francisco. I thought it was largely forgettable. I even forgot that I had read it until I was coming back to do the wrap up in TBR. That's how forgettable, how bland it was. I think the biggest problem is that it focuses on the politics and the life circumstances of the author who wrote it in 1905. So it focuses on the politics and whatnot of that time, and so it kind of feels kind of indecipherable to me now. Especially because I wasn't in Japan at that time. I don't know what the Meiji Restoration, what all of that really meant for the people who lived in it. And that feels like a very important sort of aspect of it. I feel like if you're a history from that, or who like works in that era, that might be a much more interesting book, but it wasn't so much for me, unfortunately. And then I also read On Our Best Behavior, which was a book about feminism, about religion and the 7 deadly sins and how it applies to women. I thought it was just okay, but as time goes on, I'm finding myself not liking it more and more, simply because the more I think about it, the more it just seems like the author just gathered all the existing writings from other people and just presented them that way. Very little of their own contributions included in the book. And then also the fact that the author worked for Goop, which historically has sort of been kind of a mess of feminist, sort of feminist ideals, but not quite, but just promoting the capitalist system. And the fact that, the writer doesn't really acknowledge it, in my opinion. Bevan, this was a book club read, and Bevan felt a little bit differently there. I feel like if you don't acknowledge that you were part of the problem, then you must be trying to hide something. So not a big fan of that book. I also read Live from Cairo by Ian Braithwaite, which was a good book. Probably one of the best of the month, but not the best. Very interesting story about the immigration system and the refugee system and how people often have to engage in risky behavior because the system in place, it either can't meet the needs of the people or is designed not to meet the needs of the people. And also a little bit of perspective on the Egyptian revolution that took place in 2010 and 2011. I thought it was pretty good there. So it's a strong recommend from me. I also read Spy Family Volume 5, which I thought was a lot of fun. Very interesting to see where this series is heading, as well as the regular, like, consistent humor of the series is something that I'm a fan of. And then I also read Catwoman When in Rome, which I thought was fun. Not too much to it. I was planning on talking about it, but there wasn't a lot worth exploring in that series. I should note it takes place around the time of The Long Halloween, which is a comic that I've read. And I thought that was also pretty good, but it as a follow-up or a sort of sequel to that story, it didn't have the same level of quality and mystery to it. I also read the Liberation comic from the sort of comic adaptation of the Horizon Zero Dawn series, which the story takes place in the middle of the Horizon Zero Dawn. I thought it was okay, not a lot worth exploring there, and I feel like Horizon Zero Dawn is mostly a visual media or like a video game. Like, it's better as a video game because you can explore the beautiful world that they set up, and as a static image, it's fine. It's not really like, once you played the game, just reading it isn't really the same. But I thought it was fine. It doesn't really have a lot worth exploring. But I got this from a friend for a Secret Santa gift, and I finally got around to reading it. And there's a second comic that takes place after the events of the first game. And I'll probably be exploring that soon. And then I also read A Hero Born. As I mentioned before, this is part of the Legend of the Condor Heroes series, the English translation. I thought it was awesome. Lucas from the Bits of Lit recommended to me, and it was pretty amazing. I loved the themes that were explored, such as sworn brotherhood, honor, the Chinese values that were put on display, and it's sort of a reflection of Chinese society. Even though it's about the past, it's sort of a way of understanding Chinese heritage and whatnot. And also the martial arts fight scenes are pretty cool. But I really think one of the best aspects of it is it's simple. It's a story about two Chinese boys raised up apart, and trained in the ways of martial arts, but circumstances intervene, make one person, ally with the Jin Empire, and another person kind of not on the Jin side. Like, these two are coming together. So it's sort of a tragic, sort of Shakespearean type story, or using the themes that Shakespeare employed. So very much looking forward to more from that. And it's probably the best of the month, but also one of the best of the year. I have a feeling it's going to show up on my regular year-end list. And then I read a number of short stories, including Trample the Dead, Hurdle the Weak, which I thought was pretty good. A White Heron by Sarah Jewett, which I thought was touching, really interesting, exploring like women and the environment, and wanting to protect a creature from the harm that people usually do to such innocent creatures. I also read Green Eggs and Ham by Dr. Seuss, which I thought was, of course, good. And then Tumble, which was a short story from a collection that I read, and I thought that was a pretty good short story showing like a woman kind of drawn back to an area that she doesn't want to be, and also like trying to help somebody but also not being able to do that because of past grievances against that person, but also understanding that if you don't help that person, they're going to lose everything. So kind of at a crossroads. Really interesting short story that's worth seeking out. and then a number of poems as well, which you can find in my Poetry Thursday tag if you want to find out more about that. But what do I plan on reading in April? I have a number of good reads planned, some stuff that I wanted to read in March, but I didn't really have the time to get to. Bunnicula, which is this. This is on my agenda right now. It's a book that I saw in elementary school, middle school, but I never read. And so I think I read some other books from the same author, but I've never read this one. So I might discuss it here, I might not. Also, American Gods, which I've been wanting to get to. I've already read it, but I wanted to sort of re-explore it. But a Backstory, which is the book club read for the month of April. If you are interested in reading that and joining the book club and having discussions about those sorts of things, let me know in the comments below. And also click on the link to the Discord, as that is where Bevan and I both hang out among many other cool people, and we discuss, book club, books, movies, stuff like that. So feel free to join. And then another Horizon Zero Dawn comic, as I mentioned before. I picked up From Hell by Alan Moore from my local library, so be on the lookout for that. Hamlet, which is on my TBR for the 2024, of course, by Shakespeare. Looking forward to that. The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie. As you may recall, I read one of his short stories a few months ago, and I was a big fan. But I'm looking forward to seeing what he has to say in a novel format this time. Should be pretty interesting. I believe that it has been on some banned list, which is another reason that I am reading it. It's always good to check out those banned books and see why people want things to be banned. So lots of interesting books planned for April. I also have some short stories planned, including one by Charles Dickens, so be on the lookout for that, and Neil Gaiman from his short story collection, Trigger Warning. So in addition to reading American Gods, I'll also be reading his short story collection, which I've been wanting to do for a while. I feel like I've been exploring Neil Gaiman pretty thoroughly, especially on this channel. Haven't really liked everything he's done, but a lot of his writing is pretty high quality. Eventually, I'm going to need to actually read, or not read, but like talk about Neil Gaiman as a complete author, just highlighting what he's talking about and my overall opinion of him and where he stands in the literary canon or just in the zeitgeist of literature in general. So be on the lookout for that, as well as some more poems for the month of April. If you have any recommendations, let me know in the comments below. Anyway, that was my wrap up and TBR for the month of March and April. Lots of interesting stuff that I read in March and some interesting plans for the month of April. As per usual, if you have any recommendations for books that you think would be up my alley or things you just want me to talk about on this channel, let me know in the comments below. Would love to hear from you and check out those recommendations. Otherwise, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that more people can find out about this channel if they don't already know. And as I mentioned before, join the Discord in the description below if you want to have further conversations about books or just, whatever's on your mind. And until then, I wish you the best of luck in your weird and April travels. Farewell.